Hello everyone and welcome to my Soap Twist 24 channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Remy stood in the dark light of the hospital corridor, clutching a crumpled piece of paper with quivering palms. The words on it were etched in his mind. DNA test results, 99.9% match. His heart pounded with a frantic rhythm that drowned out the sterile hum of the hospital around him. Luna was somewhere in the structure, as was his child. The child she hadn't informed him about. The child was born from a single night, a fleeting flash of desire that had upended both of their lives. It had been 1 year since that night. Remy remembered perfectly how the city lights shone through Luna's apartment window, the soothing jazz playing in the background, and the warmth of her laughter as they talked till dawn. They were strangers brought together by happenstance, two sad souls seeking shelter in a tavern after a long, unhappy day. One drink led to another, and before he knew it, they were entwined in each other's arms, lost in a fog of need and desperation. It was supposed to be a brief escape. No promises, no strings. But everything had changed. Remy's boots rang on the linoleum floor as he walked outside the maternity unit. He hadn't meant to come here, not now or ever. But then he saw her, Luna, stepping out of a cab with a stroller, her face pallid and exhausted, her eyes darting anxiously as if she sensed someone looking. He had not intended to follow her. He hadn't intended to pry into her life or employ someone to discover the truth. But the instant he saw the baby's huge, familiar eyes peering back at him from the pram, he knew. It was as if he was looking in a mirror at his own childhood photos. The contour of the nose, the curvature of the lips, it was unmistakable. And when the private investigator brought him the stolen DNA results from a clinic file, the reality hit him like a freight train. Luna concealed it from him. For months, she carried their child, gave birth, and began a life without saying anything to him. The betrayal hurt, sharp and icy, but it was nothing compared to the agony of knowing he'd missed the first cry, grin, everything. Luna had made his child feel like a stranger to him. He stopped pacing and slumped against the wall, his breathing labored. The hospital reeked of antiseptic and sadness, a place where lives began and ended in the same breath. He wasn't sure how to feel, angry, heartbroken, or something else entirely. All he knew was that he needed to see her. He needed to address her. He needed to know why. Luna waited in the pediatrician's waiting room, nervously pulling the hem of her sweatshirt. Mia slept soundly in her arms, unaware of the storm developing in her mother's heart. Luna's gaze shifted to the clock on the wall. The appointment was in 10 minutes for a normal checkup, but her mind was elsewhere. She couldn't get rid of the feeling that someone was watching her, that the fragile world she created for herself and Mia was going to collapse. She had anticipated this day. She knew she couldn't keep her pregnancy a secret for long. But she had tried. God, she had tried. She'd relocated to a new place, severed links with everyone in her previous life, and buried the memories of that night with Remy. It wasn't that she disliked him or regretted what had transpired. It was the opposite. She had felt too much. That night, she saw a glimpse of something real, something she wasn't prepared for. She was barely able to keep her life together after her mother died, drowning in debt and sadness. Adding a baby and a man she hardly knew to the mix seemed like a prescription for disaster. So she ran. She'd persuaded herself it was for the best, that Remy wouldn't want the responsibility and that he'd be better off without her dragging him into her problems. But deep down, she knew it was cowardice. She was scared of what it would mean to let him in, to share Mia, to risk losing control of the one thing that gave her life purpose. The waiting room door flung open, and Luna's heart stopped. There he was, Remy, his black eyes filled with rage and pain. He appeared older than she remembered, his jaw hard and his shoulders bent, as if bearing the weight of the world. For a minute, they simply stared at each other, the air between them dense with unspoken words. Luna, he whispered in a low, scratchy voice, like gravel underfoot. We need to talk. She gripped Mia tighter, her heart racing. Remy, I don't, he interrupted her, moving closer. His hands were locked into fists, yet his gaze was begging. Do not lie to me.
Not now.
I understand, Luna. I know she's mine. The words struck her like a physical blow. She opened her mouth to deny it, to say something, anything, to keep the walls she'd erected from crumbling. But the truth was written all over his face. He knew. There was no avoiding it now.
How?
She muttered, her voice barely audible. Remy removed the crumpled paper from his pocket and held it up. DNA tests. I needed to know. I saw Luna. I saw our daughter, Luna said, blinking back tears. You had no right, she remarked, her voice cracking. You had no right to do that.
What?
Remy's voice increased, catching the attention of a nurse at the reception counter. He lowered it, but the rage remained, boiling. You have hidden my daughter from me. For 1 year, Luna. 1 year. Do you know what that feels like? To know I had a child out there, and I wasn't even given the opportunity to be her father? Luna's throat clenched. She wanted to shout, to tell him it wasn't that simple, that she'd been afraid and alone, and that she did her best. But the words would not come. Instead, she gazed down at Mia, her small chest rising and falling with every breath. I did what I thought was right, she finally admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. Right for whom? Remy snapped. For you? Because it was clearly not the appropriate fit for me. Or for her. Luna flinched, his words stinging deeper than she had anticipated. She wanted to explain and defend herself, but the guilt was too overwhelming. She knew deep down that keeping Mia a secret was bad. But she had convinced herself that it was the only way to protect both her daughter and herself. Bill, Luna's older brother, was waiting in the hospital cafeteria when he noticed the confrontation in the waiting room. He had always been protective of Luna, especially since their mother died. When he entered the room and found Remy standing over his sister, his expression hardened. What the hell's happening on here? Bill demanded, stepping between Luna and Remy. His large form obstructed Remy's view, and for a brief period, the tension in the room seemed to rise. Bill, don't, Luna begged, her voice shaking. She stood, clutching Mia, who moved slightly, but did not awaken. This is between me and Remy. Like hell it is, Bill muttered, staring at Remy. Who is this guy, Luna? And why is he yelling at you? Remy did not back down. I'm the father of her daughter, he stated calmly, despite the storm in his eyes. And she's been keeping it from me. Bill's eyes widened, and he looked to Luna, astonishment written on his face. Is this true? Luna's silence was sufficient. Bill's countenance changed from disbelief to rage, and he took a step towards Remy. Do you think you can just show up here and throw accusations around? You know nothing about her life, Guy. You have no idea what she has been through. I know she lied to me, Remy responded. I know she concealed my child from me. That's enough. Bill's voice had dropped to a low growl, his hands clenched. You're not allowed to stroll in here and play the victim. You were not there. Stop it. You don't know half of it. Luna's voice rang through the room, piercing and desperate. Both males froze and turned to her. Tears ran down her cheeks now, and she did not bother wiping them away. Please stop. This isn't helping anyone. She stared at Remy, her heart breaking for the pain in his eyes. I'm sorry, she admitted, her voice breaking. I did not want it to be like this. I was terrified, okay? I wasn't sure what to do. I didn't believe you'd want us. Remy's jaw tightened, and he appeared to be about to walk away. But then his shoulders fell, and he ran his hand through his hair, tiredness taking the place of wrath. You didn't even give me a chance to decide, he remarked gently. You took that from me? Luna nodded, the weight of his words falling on her. I know, she whispered, and I'll regret it for the rest of my life. The hospital waiting room felt smaller now, the walls closing in as the three of them formed a tense triangle, with Mia's quiet breathing breaking the silence. Bill crossed his arms, still staring at Remy, but keeping his cool for Luna's sake. Remy's eyes were riveted on the baby, and his look was one of desire and despair. I want to be in her life, Remy finally stated, his voice steady yet quiet. I'm not sure how this works, Luna. I'm not sure what you're going through or what you have been through, but I want to know her. I want to be her father. Luna's heart twisted. She wanted to say yes, let him in, and believe they could work it out. But the dread persisted, losing control, disappointing Mia, and allowing herself up to someone who could shatter her heart all over again. I need time, she explained, her voice barely audible. I need to think about it. It's not only about you and me. It's about her. Remy nodded, his disappointment evident in his eyes. I'll wait, he replied. But I am not going away, Luna. Not this time. Bill snorted, shattering the silence. You'd better mean that, he continued, his tone remaining stern. Because if you hurt my sister, or that kid, I'll make sure you regret it. Remy did not react, but the look in his eyes indicated that he knew. He gave Luna one more glance before turning and walking out of the room, the door swinging shut behind him. Luna leaned back on the chair, her legs trembling. Mia shifted in her arms, letting out a gentle whimper. Luna kissed her forehead, tears pouring on the baby's smooth skin. I'm sorry, sweet girl, she said quietly. I'm so sorry. The next few days were filled with sleepless nights and many questions. Luna couldn't stop thinking about the encounter, seeing the pain in Remy's eyes and hearing the accusation in his voice. She wanted to believe he could be a decent father and deserved a chance, but the thought of letting him in was overwhelming. What happens if he changes his mind? What if he wasn't prepared? What if she isn't? Bill was no assistance. He had always been protective, but now he was furious, not only at Remy, but also at Luna for hiding the secret. You should have told me, he murmured one night over dinner, his voice full of disappointment. I could have helped you, Luna. You didn't have to do this alone. I understand, she answered, staring at her untouched plate. But I did not want to burden you. You've already accomplished so much. Bill shook his head. That isn't how families function. You do not get to pick what constitutes a burden. We're in this together. His words stuck with her, echoing in the quiet moments when she was alone with Mia.
Family.
It was a term she had held to after her mother's death, one that had helped her get through the most difficult times. But suddenly it felt bigger and more intricate. Whether Mia liked it or not, Remy was also a member of her family. Meanwhile, Remy was dealing with his own emotional tempest. He'd spent the last year attempting to repair his life following a series of disastrous decisions, lost jobs, broken relationships, and a drinking problem that he was still struggling to control. The news about Mia had shocked him to his core, forcing him to confront the type of guy he wished to be. He was far from perfect, but he wanted to be better for her. He started tiny. He obtained a stable work at a construction site that earned enough to meet his rent and, possibly, child support in the future. He gave up drinking, substituting late evenings at the pub for early mornings at the gym. And he penned thousands of letters to Mia, but never mailed them. They were his method of processing, of promising her things he wasn't sure he could fulfill, but really wanted to. He wrote, I will be there for you, even if it takes me years to demonstrate it. He didn't push Luna, but each day, without seeing Mia, felt like a knife in his chest. He texted her a simple message, I'm here when you're ready. And then he waited, hoping she'd come around and give him the opportunity to be the parent he'd never had. Months passed, and things slowly began to change. Luna gradually introduced Remy into Mia's life. It started with a meeting at a park, when Remy sat on a seat and watched Mia toddle across the grass, his heart swelling with love he didn't know he could feel. The visits to Luna's apartment were awkward at first, with stilted talk and unsaid tension. However, with time, the barriers between them began to disintegrate. Luna saw Remy's efforts, not only with Mia, but also with himself. He was trying hard, and that meant something. She gradually began to trust him, and with that trust came the flicker of hope. Maybe they can make it work. Perhaps they might be a family, although in a sloppy, imperfect way. Bill remained dubious, but when he saw Remy with Mia, he warmed, much like he would when she chuckled or reached for his hand. He's not half bad, Bill conceded one day, reluctantly. But I'm still watching him. One evening, as the sun sank over the city, Luna and Remy sat on her apartment balcony, Mia asleep in her crib. The air was cold, and the sky was striped with pink and gold. For the first time in a long time, Luna felt at peace. "I'm sorry," she repeated, her voice quiet. "For keeping her from you." Remy nodded, his gaze set on the horizon. "I thought I was protecting her, but I was actually scared." "I get it," he replied. "I was terrified, too. Still am. But I want it, Luna. I want to be here for her. And for you, if you let me." Luna looked at him, her heart full and heavy at the same time. "We'll figure it out," she explained. "Together." And at that moment, with the city lights glittering below and the weight of the past gradually lifting, they both thought it was conceivable. It wouldn't be simple or perfect, but it was a start. For Mia, themselves, and the family they were just beginning to form. Remy's heart broke when the door creaked open and Luna stepped inside, her shoulders drooping from a late shift, her smile feeble, but still meant for him. For a brief moment, he wanted to pretend that the world hadn't changed, pretend her touch still belonged to him alone, pretend the kid developing inside her was their dream rather than his nightmare. But lies fester faster than wounds, and Remy could feel the poison of quiet consuming him. He stood as if tugged by a string, his gaze fixed on hers. She froze, sensing the tempest in him even before he said anything. "Luna," he exclaimed, his voice harsh and shaking like glass about to break. "We need to talk." Her smile faded, and her purse slipped from her shoulder. She nodded slowly, but her gaze faltered, revealing a hint of anxiety. She carefully laid her belongings down, as if the slightest noise may set off what she already knew was about to happen. Remy gulped hard, the words scraping against his throat as he forced them out. "I know," he whispered. "I know what happened that night. About you and Bill." The name echoed over the room like thunder. Luna flinched, her lips parted and her eyes widened. For a split second, she did not move, breathe, or blink. Remy worried that the silence between them would strangle him. His chest rose and fell in tiny bursts as he struggled against the flood of rage and anguish. He had hoped she would deny it, laugh and tell him he was mistaken, reach out and remind him of who they were together. But her silence sounded louder than any confession. "You don't even have to say it," Remy muttered furiously, pacing across the room as if the floor itself were unsteady. "I see it. I've seen it in your eyes whenever his name comes up. I've felt it in the way you've been pushing away, in the way you flinch when I touch you, as if you're carrying something I can't have anymore." Luna's eyes welled up with tears, and she reached for him, but he pulled aside, as if her touch hurt. "Remy, please, don't," he said, his voice breaking. "Do not tell me it was a mistake. Don't tell me that meant nothing."
Because it meant something.
"It meant everything. You broke us, Luna. And the worst part, the thing that's tearing me apart, is that baby. Tell me the truth." His voice cracked, and his eyes glistened with pain. "Is it mine or his?" Luna's sob burst forth, piercing and frail. She slid down the couch's arm, shaking hands, shielding her face. Her silence was an answer in and of itself, but Remy couldn't accept it, couldn't stop searching for words that would provide him with something solid to stand on. "Say something," he demanded, his voice raspy. "Say it aloud so that I can stop pretending. So I can fully understand what you did to us."